Hello and welcome back to the studio, and I'm joined now by Edwin from Energyworx, and the first thing you'll notice is that there's slight difference in the attire. So Edwin's not wearing a suit, which gives you a clue that Energyworx probably doesn't come from the traditional energy sector, but like any business, you've seen an opportunity, you've seen a gap. Just tell us a little bit about what the business is aiming to do, and then we'll dive a little bit deeper into where the gaps are that you've seen.
Okay, so Energyworx is a fairly new company, as you correctly said, and we've been here for slightly over 2 years, and I've been working in and around utilities myself, and we decided to start this new company, a company utilizing innovative technologies, enabling utilities to do smarter things and make their business more innovative than before.
Okay, so when we say utilities, I kind of feel that we need to get rid of that word, because there is generation, there's transmission, there's... What part of that chain are you focusing on?
Well, actually, since our platform is like a data aggregator, we can support any type of business within a utility, or actually also outside, but we're actually aiming or focusing on utility business, because that's where our knowledge came from. So, for example, energy retailers, DSOs, energy retailers use our system for consumer engagement, doing direct marketing campaigns and utilizing several types of data. They correlate it actually with behavior or other types of information. But grid operators use our system to actually gather the numerous amounts of data points from smart meters, which is growing and increasing also in density. And they found out that doing that in their own data center was too costful, and so you should utilize cloud in a smart way, and that's why we decided to build our company on top of a cloud-based solution.
Okay, and when you talk about that and you say, right, okay, we're going to build things on top of a cloud-based solution, there's always a bit of a fear about putting things into the cloud. How are you sort of overcoming those perception changes that need to be made?
Exactly, yeah. Well, we believe that that's a sentiment, and some people have that's stronger than others. But we noticed the last year or so that sentiment is changing a lot, because we focus on privacy and security. That's actually in our footprint of our software from day one. Security-wise, because we're using cloud, we actually, I think, more secure than any type of solution that you install yourself in your own data center, because most utilities are only doing perimeter security, while in the cloud you have several layers, abstraction layers of security, which are handled by different companies. And if you look at Google, they're under a magnifying glass talking about security. So they have a very strict security policy, and our software focuses on application security. We even do not know where servers are of Google. We cannot even log in or have accounts. So can you imagine how a hacker would hack into our system and then being able to get that data, as we do not even know where the data is exactly. And then on top of that, if you look at privacy, we have a specific technology in place and an algorithm implemented that pseudonymizes data from a user to his meter data. So, and that's also something unique, because no other company is currently doing that, because they think, well, we're running in our own data center, we close it up using a perimeter firewall security. So that's another unique aspect, which means actually meter data can never be directed to the personal information of a user in our system, or a company, or whoever is sending us the data. So from that aspect, I think it's also a unique implementation, especially on the level. So our company was when we founded the company, we actually created a manifest with some important aspects that we are following on a day-to-day basis. So we decided to go, so privacy security was number one, ease of use was number two. And because we are so abstract in using the technology and making use of cloud computing, we can focus more efficient on those kind of topics than other companies.
So one of the things that is also an issue with cloud services is the increasing number of directives about where personal data can be held, where it can't be held, Russia famously, any personal data needs to be in Russia. A number of the EU countries, because there isn't a EU-wide rule. If you do things in Ireland, you've got to keep it there, and so especially on the personal data. So how
do we deal with this?
How do you deal with that?
Okay, that's a good question. First of all, we always say within our company, the user owns the data. So he should always be in control of his own data. If he approves that we are collecting his data, he should always be able to disconnect his account or even completely remove his data. That's our first principle. Secondly, we can choose geographical locations when we run things from the cloud environment, which are mostly based like on the US, Europe. And even then some of our customers say, well, okay, we do not mind that data is being processed in the cloud in the European region, but we want to have certain data stored within our country boundaries. So we decided to set up a hybrid model where we could also deploy some of our software in the data centers of those companies. So, but that still remains a small part. At first, when we started the company, that part was bigger. And they noticed that sentiment was changing, security controls were very good that we implemented, and then decided to move installed software in that environment, in our own data center, back to the cloud again, because they were happy with the security controls and security measures that were taken, which were most of the time better than their own security.
Yes.
Those models are also available.
So that leads me on to another area where, and I've worked in the cloud world before, and one of the USPs is the speed of deployment, the speed at which you can do that. So that must be something that people see a benefit to.
Exactly, yeah. So if you're talking about speed, it's not only speed on deployment, but also on development. So because we can focus on our own core components, because we are relying on the cloud services, cloud platform services, which is totally different than most other vendors are doing, we can focus more on our core components. That's why we can have more releases per year. So, and because you have more releases per year, your release methodology, your release process needs to be more dynamic also. And the cloud allows us to do rolling updates. So we can install software in the cloud 6 to 8 times a year even, depending on our development process. So the customer can instantly benefit from changes in the software if regulations require it or markets are changing, while other vendors probably have a release cycle of a year for major versions, and then they have to implement it in their own data center doing large, costful migration projects. So that's the difference. Customers can actually, if we install a new release today, they have instantly access to the new features, so they can use them and adopt them immediately in their software.
Because that's one of the things that's changing in this world, and we're coming to the end of our time here, but it seems to me very clear that depending on where you are in what used to be described as the utility, whether generation, some things are very stable, but as you start getting to the edge, it's starting to move a whole lot more. There's this whole new notion about how you interact with the customers. Surely that means that actually you can't stand still. You can't just have one system and say, okay, this is what we're going to run for 5 years. So what's the value that you're adding to people in order to enable them to have this more personalized, deeper relationship with their customers?
So there are a couple of things that we need to, or that the customer needs to do that. So we decided to build not an application silo in terms of features and functionalities towards the customer, where we build a big client with a huge backend behind it. We say no, we have small building blocks. We call it an API, which is accessible very easily by the customer. They can do their own things with it. They can build their own apps on it, or they can
build and extend.
Yeah, they can extend easily. So nowadays it's all about customization and time to market, and they want to have like so if they have a traditional vendor offering them a fat client application or a web-based application which is designed by that vendor, if the customer requires changes, I've seen it a lot, especially if you reuse that software across different geographical locations, because culture is different, legislation is different, they have different processes in place. They cannot do that. They have to have a customized setup of their software at that customer. And can you imagine if they have 100 customers like that, how can you maintain that?
Well, you don't have scale. You don't have economies of scale.
Exactly. And if you want to change something new in your software, in your core software, and you have a lot of different branch installations with modifications, you have to maintain those also. So they need a very large team to do that. So our company is relatively small, but we can do big things because we have a smart way of doing this. We have one baseline of code, which we install in the cloud in a multi-tenant environment. So yesterday during the presentation I called it resource pooling, so our software can be used by several customers. And of course we have a lot of security constraints in place to separate data of different customers, but that's why we can roll out features and releases very fast. And I believe that's what the market currently needs, and also our customers who are using our software have seen that also even during the first stages when they used our software. So we very quickly became a strategic platform or solution in their environment, not running in their own data center but in the cloud. So accessible to them instantly, they can scale up whenever they want or scale down, which is very important. So you don't have to order a server, wait for 13 weeks, and then when your campaign is over, yeah, you still
got that server.
Yeah,
you're like, okay, what are we going to do with this thing?
So yesterday I got a lot of questions about performance, because I saw a booth here or stand here which said something like, okay, we do 1 million transactions per second, but that's not the way cloud works. You know, if you have one server who can do let's say 100,000 transactions per second, you can scale up to 1,000 servers easily with the click of a button, you know, and so it's not about the transactions.
And do those transactions when you need to do them, and then go back down to.
Yeah. And the take-up time is only a few minutes. The only limit there is your daily budget.
Yes.
So no need to order machines, no need to wait, no need to be afraid in maybe ordering new. Like if you order, it's not all. For example, they told us yesterday, one of the stands further down here. They needed 20 servers to do the 1 million per second, and if you order those 20 servers, you have those 20 servers. We can do the same thing for 5 minutes and then scale down again, and you only pay
for the 5 minutes when you need to crunch that amount of data.
And that's the flexibility they're looking for.
Well, it's been great talking to you, and I know you're part of a data panel which we're doing here as well, and that presentation that you talked about, your presentation, that's also going to be live on Energyworx, because we're picking up all the presentations from here and putting them up on the network. So if you're watching this, there will be a link to Edwin's presentation, so you can go ahead and enjoy that as well. Thank you for watching, and Edwin, thank you for making the time to be here.
You're welcome.
Thank you.